IVM.
Hey, Raghavi, do you remember the 20th of July?
Okay. You have to be way more specific than that, but
Okay. I think we had just gotten up from our afternoon nap and
an afternoon nap.
Yeah.
On what I have a feeling might be a work day.
Yeah.
Why? Okay. Why were we sleeping in the afternoon in the middle of a work day?
because we were stressed out about doing the Cyrus live stream the next day. And we just decided that, oh my God, we're having a 2-minute meltdown. Let's cure it with a 20-minute nap.
Yeah, that was quite stressful. Actually, I don't really want to talk about that.
Yeah, okay, let's not. But do you remember what happened on that day?
Yes, I actually do, because the day before we did Cyrus was also the day that we were inundated with just dozens and dozens of text messages and Instagram DMs, and they all told us the same thing. They told us that there was a woman in Kerala who pretended to be a lawyer for almost 2 years, and she faked her qualifications. And then she also went on to win like an official position in the State Bar Association.
Yep.
And then she was caught.
That's right. And all these DMs and messages were like, guys, can you and Raghavi please cover this woman? You know what? We will.
Have you ever wondered why women don't do more crime? Well, we're here to tell you. There's misconduct all the time. Women are thieves and murderers.
That's gross misconduct.
Con artists, money launderers.
Criminal misconduct.
Financial fraud that's hard to track.
Takes some planning, but still misconduct.
Even breaching a contract.
Well, that's more civil though.
It's misconduct. Misconduct. We tell you all about women that suck. Things that make you say, what the? It's misconduct.
Hello, and welcome to Misconduct. We are a podcast in which we talk about women that did bad things. Sometimes they're crimes, sometimes they're just things that they did for the loans and that ended up giving them a bad reputation. Should they be penalized for it? Who knows? My name is Raghavi.
And I am Nisha. And I particularly love the ones which they do for lols. Today we are talking about Ceci Xavier, a woman who pretended to be a qualified and enrolled advocate with the Kerala State Bar Council. She practiced law for a good 2 years. She even went on to become the librarian of the State Bar Council. She represented loads of people in cases that she was not at all authorized to do in any way. And no one suspected a thing. Dun, dun, dun. But the best part of the case is not like the months-long con that she pulled off. It's just all of the drama that she casually pulled off when the con was discovered.
Yeah, man, I think I kind of love her. But you know who shouldn't love her? Children.
What?
Sorry, that came out wrong. What I meant to say was, this is a podcast about true crime. It's not suitable for children. Listener discretion is advised.
That's where you were going with it. We'll plan better segues next time.
Yeah.
Also, guys, we wanted to ask you a quick favor. Since we're on season 2 and you all are still here and clearly you like us, it would mean a lot if you could show us how much you like us. If you can go back to your apps, whatever that your app you're using, and hit the like or heart button for the episodes that you liked. Plus, also hit on follow or subscribe for the show itself. And it would mean so much to us.
Yeah. And if you're on Apple Podcasts or YouTube, just please leave a review as well. We are sort of at that stage with the podcast where we really know that some of you love it, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
But we're also sort of working on accessibility overall. We want to see like how much of an audience we can reach outside of this lovely little circle of people who genuinely seem to like us. And it turns out these sorts of things like liking or subscribing, that really helps. So of course, please do tell your friends about us, to post about us in your social media, and just generally hype us up. I mean, if you like us, of course.
Of course they like us. Anyway, let's now talk about the woman. So we know the story of Ceci Xavier. She's just from a few years ago. Ceci was born around 1993 or 94 and was a native of the town Alappuzha in Kerala. You may know it better as Alappe. It's a little away from the city of Kochi. Alappe is actually known for its like beautiful backwaters, stunning lagoons, and like these lazy houseboats.
Yeah, it's also the town where like you can float down one of those backwaters in a houseboat, and then you'll stop by these tiny shops on the way and they'll sell you like fresh ass toddy. And
Really?
dude, Fresh Toddy is a real experience. Okay, it's not like your usual Kallachara scenes. It's really delicious and it's so rich. Everybody should try it at some point.
Oh, cool. So it appears that Ceci Xavier had enrolled herself at the Kerala Law Academy College in Thiruvananthapuram for a degree in law, that is LLB. However, she did not really complete this course or graduate as far as we can tell. One of her representations before the Kerala High Court said that due to her poor financial circumstances at home, she could not successfully complete her course. She apparently also stated that she had lost some official documentation about her, so she couldn't complete the administrative actions that she needed to take to get the LLB degree.
Mm-hmm.
There is some speculation that she didn't complete her degree because she couldn't meet the attendance requirements of her college. Not sure if this is like a sympathy angle or something. And honestly, I don't think we should spend too much time on that because we can't prove it as far as we can see. And she hasn't proved it to the court either. So in either 2017 or 18, she decided to start working at the law offices of an advocate in Alappuzha. Some news reports say that she started out as an intern with the advocate and then came back a few months later with her enrollment. Yes, I am using air quotes when I say enrollment. She came back to this advocate and she said, "Hey, I have an LLB degree now. Can you please give me a job?" And she got the job.
Whoa, dude, what a go-getter, man, this woman. Not even a cover letter, as far as I can see. That's just not even a very awkward LinkedIn request.
No,
saying,
just
please. Not even that.
100% pure confidence in herself.
Man, I want this in my life.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Someone should bottle that. She also attended these proceedings wearing an advocate's coat and gown, which is that flowy, like Severus Snape gown that you see in these high court and Supreme Court lawyers that they wear.
Yeah, dude. People have told me that it feels like Severus Snape, like, when they wear them, especially when they're like swooping down the corridor of like a high court that's likely older than their grandparents, by the way. That's apparently how it feels. Yeah.
Have you ever had to wear one of these robes and like work in court?
No. So I have never actually represented a client in a court.
Oh.
I just got myself like this nice, cushy little corporate job. Then I moved to a company. So it's not something that I've done, but I have done internships with like a couple of high court and Supreme Court lawyers. But dude, it's not the same at all. Have you? I have been to a high court before.
I did. When I was doing one of my internships as a journalist, they just said, go to court and report on something. And I sat through a lot of cases and it was boring.
It does. Yeah, it can get boring, but
no, that's unfair. I didn't understand what was going on.
That's why. Yes. That's why it can get boring.
I should have taken you along.
Dude, in the first few years, I didn't understand it as well. It's only in my last couple of years of law school that I genuinely understood it. And that's only because I was like, whoa, this place is so regal. Shut up and listen to these people.
Yes, apparently Ceci did shut up and listen because she had a thriving litigation career. So, of course, as an advocate, you have to be registered with the local bar council. And so she was with the Kerala State Bar Council. Membership with the Bar Council gives you many benefits. But more importantly, it's also necessary for you to practice law anywhere in the country. So, in fact, a client cannot appoint you as their lawyer at all unless your enrollment is formally completed. So, Ceci was enrolled with the bar in 2018 under the registration number K/1177/2018. It appears she submitted fake documents to get enrolled, but we haven't seen these documents yet. She also made some friends at the Alappuzha Bar Association. Enough friends that they asked her one day, "Hey, Ceci, why don't you apply for an official position with the Bar Association?"
What?
And Ceci, who's, let's please remember, doesn't actually have a law degree yet, was like, "This seems like a good idea."
The spotlight will not be on me. I can be so subtle about it.
So she stood for the elections for the 2020-2021 positions, and her nomination was accepted by the bar. That's how she got the position of a librarian.
Sweet. Okay.
She pretended to be a lawyer for a little bit. She got a job as a librarian, something that she was very popularly elected into, by the way. So why is this such a big deal? Why are we talking about this?
Okay, so let's take a quick break because when we come back, there is
suspense.
Yes, it is indeed. See you guys after the break. Okay.
Have you ever wondered where the business world is headed? How the ways in which we create, market, and sell to consumers will evolve? Or if we'll ever go back to wearing pants while working? For answers to all of this and more, tune into Advertising is Dead with me, Varun Dugirala. Every Tuesday, as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond. You can catch all episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IBM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from.
We're back from the break, guys. So before we left off, Nisha was like, why is this case such a big deal? And I can help you answer that. But in order to do that, we must first
Set context. Pew, pew, pew.
That's absolutely accurate. So let's start with the Advocates Act of 1961.
Okay.
So this is a whole set of laws that governs the practice of law in India. It's also the law that set up the Bar Council of India and all the individual state bar councils as well. So under this act, the Bar Council of India, or the BCI, lays down the rules for practice. So like who can qualify to be a lawyer, how legal education must be structured, what professional conduct is expected from advocates, that sort of stuff. And the BCI represents the Indian bar at large.
Okay.
And it also has the power to impose disciplinary action against advocates who don't follow its rules. These powers also go on to the state bar councils as well. So remember, if you haven't qualified yet, the BCI or any of the state bar councils can prohibit you from actually practicing law. So just to clarify, under the Act, an advocate is defined as someone who's enrolled under the provisions of this Act. And I know that can sound confusing, but basically what it means is if you don't follow the process to become an advocate and get yourself enrolled appropriately, you cannot practice law in India.
Oh, okay.
That's really it. Also, a law graduate means anyone who's obtained a bachelor degree from a university established by law in India. So just because you're a law graduate doesn't mean you can automatically necessarily practice law. You need to have that enrollment in place. Okay. That was the basics. Now to the BCI.
Okay.
The BCI is this massive entity under which there are lakhs and lakhs of lawyers that are currently enrolled. And aside from what I mentioned earlier, the BCI also has a bunch of other important tasks. So they promote like law reform, legal education. They organize legal aid for those who can't afford it. If foreign laws want to practice in India, they can set rules for that.
Okay.
Like they conduct the All India Bar examination to enter, to actually be a lawyer. And also they essentially work like a union. They safeguard the rights and interests of all the advocates and law practitioners. Now, when it comes to actual enrollment, like to practice, that power and responsibility actually goes to the state bar councils.
Okay.
Because if there are lakhs and lakhs of lawyers in just one country, it's not possible for one entity to do all of it. So
Of course.
the state bar councils have to handle like actual verification of lawyers and their enrollment to the bar, ask for the right documents, blah, blah, blah. So the first enrollment that you get from the state bar is actually provisional. And then you pass the All India Bar exam. And then you get your certificate of enrollment. And this allows an enrolled advocate to practice in just any court across India, except for the Supreme Court. That's a whole other deal.
Okay. That's a lot. And kind of boring, Raghu.
Yeah. So he was asked to leave his party. That was the Aam Aadmi Party. And he could no longer contest in the 2020 elections.
Okay then.
Yeah. So the thing is, that particular instance, it started like a bit of a frenzy. And rightfully so. It's something that you should now be concerned about because it didn't have a law degree, right? So in fact, in 2015, the then BCI chairman, Manan Kumar Mishra, he just sort of casually said that 30% of all lawyers in India are fake and they hold fraudulent law degrees.
Well, yes, let's throw that stat out there.
Just put it there. Just be like, we're providing 20 lakhs for like the cleaning budget for the BCI. And here there's another 15 lakhs for legal aid. And all 30% of all the lawyers are fraudulent. Just put it out
Anyway,
there.
cupcakes.
Cupcakes. Yeah. So also in 2016, all the state bar councils, because of this, they were given directions to start verifying advocates. So advocates had to, like every 5 years, they had to provide details about their practice and their enrollment. They had to pay a license fee even, it was quite elaborate.
So like all of these documents would then be sent back to the college to get it verified?
Yes, that's exactly right. So they would collect, like degree certificates and stuff, and they'd send back to the accredited college, and the college would say, yes, this guy actually did this. And of course, enrollment documents would be with the bar itself. So they would verify that independently. So basically what was happening was the Advocates Act passed in 1961. And there was no real digitization process then because digitizing anything didn't exist as a concept. So There was no like overreaching comprehensive process to verify whether an advocate was qualified or not across the country, you know. And even my enrollment, which happened in, I want to say 2014, was one of the first few ones that was entirely digitized. And bar councils were like genuinely struggling to collate these sorts of documentation and digitize all these old records. So it was pandemonium. Okay. Like they had to like just put in all these new rules about verification. They had to figure out how to actually verify the lawyers, what documents to ask for. Some of these documents are like colleges in the 70s and 80s. Okay. They're really old. Yeah. And they had to get all this done in 2 years because they were all supposed to be finished by 2018.
Oh, I think I remember this. I think some colleges were also being inspected, right? Some of their accreditation was halted around this time. And I think I remember reading that the BCI put a ban of like 3 years on all new university accreditation applications.
That's exactly right. So the vice chairman of the BCI, Satish Abarao Deshmukh, even as recently as January 2020, he said that there are multiple colleges that had not taken on the BCI accreditation, and law school aspirants should generally be very careful about where they apply. So there was like a general, hey guys, be careful sort of a scene. So anyway, the BCI and the state bars, they took like this nationwide check on all the advocates' numbers. Okay. So in 2016, 16 lakh lawyers had registered in all. So that would be like 1.6 million people.
Okay.
But when the call for verification was sent out, only 1.1 million responded. Oh, now this could be an awareness issue. Maybe everybody doesn't really know about it. But I remember that year, we were all like every lawyer I know was talking about this verification thing. Okay. They were like, oh, I have to send my documents again. And there were lots of people who didn't even get their bar council exam, like pass certificate in time for them to hand this over, you know? So I don't think anyone could have missed it. If there was a chunk of people that didn't apply, it's very likely that they were not lawyers.
I see. I think I remember seeing some posts on like fake certificates being handed out to students. Like there was a firm based out of Chennai, and they were booked for selling like fake law degrees with the names of some just made up North Indian universities. And they even just made like seals that looked like they were from that university.
That's actually true. That happened a lot. I remember seeing news like that a lot. Anyway, this is a whole ass mess. Okay. So after all of this in February 2017, it was basically reported that 60% of all lawyers practicing in India were likely fake.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. So this number, it was at 30% 2 years prior. Apparently, it almost doubled, like it essentially because the verification process.
Oh, that's insane. I did like come across a story, like even now when we were looking up the Ceci Xavier, this thing, I read this like one Times of India article that had come out in January 2017. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure they jumped the gun because they didn't have like the whole picture. So their headline was just like, 45% of lawyers fake? Checking is on.
We're still checking, guys. They just wanted to get in on the action. They're like, at least 45% to ho jayega. Just do it. So the BCI chairman, Manan Kumar Mishra, he also mentioned, and I'm quoting him on this, the number of practicing lawyers is about to come down by 50 to 60% after completion of the verification process. This will certainly improve the quality of our legal profession.
Sure. So on that note, let's take a quick little break. And when we come back, let's talk about how Ceci maybe improved the quality of legal education in the country.
Hey everybody, it's been a great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cyrus Says, author Shrabani Basu joins Cyrus. They discuss her latest book, The Mystery of the Parsi Lawyer, Arthur Conan Doyle, George Idalji, and The Case of the Foreigner in the English Village. We have another new show launching this week, Wars and Warriors, narrated by Air Vice Marshal Arjun Subramaniam. We're launching this podcast to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the India-Pakistan War of 1971. The podcast is on wars and conflicts in the history of independent India. Tune in to hear some of the fiercest battles that our men and women at the borders have had to brave through. On Smarter with Sid, Siddharth shares the concepts of top-down camp and bottom-up camp. These are different approaches to incorporate changes in one's lifestyle. On Tere Mere Raste, Keshav takes us to the nursery of temples Aihole and Patatakkal, the spiritual and religious center of the erstwhile Chalukya Empire. And on Marathi Kirkitun, Dr. Rajiv and Manik Deshmukh, Dr. Preeti Pottar, they discuss her contribution to audio-visual media. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, do check out our various YouTube channels. You can catch them on IVM Podcast/YouTube. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week: Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quota, CoinSwitch, Kuber, Flay Coffee, Intel, and Oxfam India. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back, everybody, after the break. We last left you with some disturbing news about the sheer number of fake lawyers likely roaming around in this country. To that, I must say, if you spot someone wearing a black and white suit carrying a briefcase, they are not necessarily a lawyer, so don't get fooled. However, they could probably just be like an investment banker or something, in which case, just slap them right across the cheek.
Their face cheek or their butt cheek?
Yes. Okay, but the latter is like sexual harassment, so I don't.
Yeah, please don't slap butt cheeks, guys. I mean, unless everybody is consenting.
Yeah,
generally don't slap butt cheeks.
A little before the news about all that unlicensed legal practitioners, we were talking about how Sessi Xavier, our sassy Malayali woman from Alapura, had won the Alapura Bar Association's elections to become the council librarian, which, by the way, is no simple job. There's the book procuring, organizing, case law updating, and just general library stuff. Also, it comes with a sizable budget because bar council and association libraries are massive. So, in fact, she won the election and all, but I'm surprised they just gave the role to an elected person in the first place. Library management is really hard. Most of the time, you have to do at least a master's degree in library sciences just to get an archival job, not even like head librarian or something. So we're at this point in 2019. Sessi was 27 years old. She would go on to hold her title as a librarian for the next 2 years. She would also spend the 2 years practicing law. Sessi appeared in several cases before various courts in Kerala. She was apparently also appointed advocate commissioner in a few cases. So basically, this is an officer appointed by the court to go to sites, investigate facts and evidence on behalf of the court. So she was literally acting as an extension of the court.
Yeah, just go big or go home. And Sessi was just embodying that.
Hell yes. She was, life was just going great for Sessi.
It really is.
Until ... Some rando complained against her.
Oh no.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of the other people who was nominated for that librarian role and didn't
So
get
they
it.
waited 2 years
Just
after she got
Out of
nominated.
spite. Yes.
Oh,
This is my theory.
I have a master's degree and this 27-year-old just turns up. And
Yes.
It's probably
Sounds right, no?
It does kind of sound right, actually. I feel it. Yeah.
So, on 15th July 2021, an anonymous letter turned up at the Alapura Bar Association. It said that Sessi didn't have a law degree and that the Bar Association should investigate this soon. And the Bar Association started tripping. They launched like a full investigation into the whole deal. They sent her a notice over email, WhatsApp, asking her to show cause. They also gave Sessi Xavier like 24 hours to hand over her documents. And then they found out a few things. First, the anonymous letter was right. Dun, dun, dun. The college documentation that Sessi produced were all fake. Second, they took her enrollment number and tried to verify it against their roles. With this, they found that she hadn't even actually enrolled. Instead, she just gave some enrollment number of some other advocate from Thiruvananthapuram.
Man.
Third and lastly, the Alapura Bar Association realized that it had messed up. No one bothered to verify her details before, and now here's a fake lawyer just set loose in the state's court and handling a very expensive library full of old and valuable books. It was, I think, for a lack of a better phrase, just a giant steaming pile of incompetence across the board.
Yeah, that is the right phrase.
So in a few days, the Bar Association lodged a complaint with the Alapura North Police Station. So the FIR listed a bunch of sections, and it's time to play a new game we call Indian Penal Code and Sections. What do you know? Do you know things? Let's find out.
Yeah, let's get a t-shirt with that.
Succinct.
All right, okay. Let's do it. Okay. Section 417, guys. You know this one.
It's the punishment for cheating. Whoever cheats will get up to 1 year in prison and or a fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dude, okay. Section 419. You also know this. It's from the Zoya Khan episode. Think about it.
Go back to episode 3 of Misconduct Podcast because this is punishment for cheating by impersonation. That's 3 years in the hole.
It is. That's a long time in the hole. Section 420. This is just common knowledge now, guys. Come on.
It's cheating to induce delivery of property, which comes with imprisonment up to 7 years.
And what do these individual punishments apply to?
For each instance of an offense, or simply put, each time she did the no thing.
Yeah. Okay, that was beautiful.
That was quite fun.
That was stunning.
Yes,
that really
it was. So now, obviously, how it goes is if you get an FIR filed against you and the charges go before the court can decide how to proceed. Ceci apparently had decided that she should go produce herself before the court. I guess that's an honorable thing to do.
Sure, good for her.
So she went off with the intention of defending herself. Except when she landed there, she found out that all the charges against her were non-bailable. That means she'll be stuck in jail till the case is decided.
Yeah. You know how she could have known if those cases were non-bailable?
How?
If she was an actual lawyer.
Oh, no.
She would have even turned up.
But fair.
Yeah.
So at that point, Ceci decided to do like a full U-turn and she just ran away.
Yeah. You know what? I get it. I'm not even mad. I also have some things to add here, okay? One, there are reports that some advocates that were at the courthouse actually helped her escape. So, yeah, I don't know how true this is, but if it is true, then you know what? That woman made some really good friends.
Yeah.
She may be a fake lawyer, but she didn't have a fake heart.
Nisha.exe has stopped functioning. Yeah, I don't know. Someone has to be exceptionally nice to me if if they want help in, escaping the law.
Yeah.
Like you have to be really nice. Like you have to buy me one of those cakes that don't look like cakes. That kind of nice.
Oh, cakes that look like shoes.
Yes,
that kind of
that
stuff. Yeah. And you're like, oh, I'll put it on, but then your foot is in a cake. Yeah, no, I would do it, but I would do it for the giggles, to be very fair. The second thing that I want to tell you guys is that India Times also reported that she ran away with a bunch of rare and valuable books.
No.
Yeah. Who would have thought this would happen? Dude, I don't know how true this is. It is reported in a couple of places, but when books are harmed in any way, that's what genuinely upsets me. And actually, I did read that the police, I'm not sure if they filed a case for theft, actually. They should have. I don't know where we are on that. Anyway, I understand why she was booked for non-bailable offenses. She was obviously clearly at flight risk. Also, the complainant that the Alapura Bar Association made before the police, it clearly stated that, she may abscond fearing apprehension, like it outrightly called it out. So it makes sense that she was booked for non-bailable offenses.
Yeah, actually, I want to talk about this complaint.
Mm-hmm.
So Raghavi got a copy of it from a friend who's based in Kerala. And it's just so goddamn sad. First off, the Alapura Bar Association outrightly admits in the complaint that when Ceci came to enroll with the bar, they just believed her.
Yeah.
Like you would believe the cake that looks like a shoe. Secondly, when they noticed early on that some documents were missing, they didn't ask her about it. In fact, let me quote the complaint. Ceci approached the Bar Association and applied for membership in normal course. Believing her words and the fact that she was a practicing lawyer, here she was given membership on 30th March 2019. Later, when we searched our office for the documents submitted by her before this association, at the time of applying for membership, the relevant documents were found to be missing. She continued to be a junior at the chambers of Advocate B. Sivadas and involved herself in all activities of the association. Things continued to be so. Things continued to be so. What? You couldn't find documents verifying her identity. So you were like, oh, well.
But you know what? After they found out, they terminated her membership with the association. Does that mean anything to you?
No, not at all. But So what's up with her now? Where is Ceci?
Okay, so we don't know, but on 21st September 2021, an order was passed by the Kerala High Court because she, through her lawyer, had made a request for anticipatory bail.
Okay.
And the High Court just straight up denied that request.
Oh, is Ceci in Egypt? Because she's getting denial.
Shut up. So in the order, the High Court just ripped into her. Okay.
Hmm.
And I'm going to quote this. Okay. It's quite harsh. So just like beware. The offenses alleged against her are no doubt grave and serious in nature, and the prosecution has to probe into the details so as to collect the entire materials to proceed with the investigation of the case with her in custody. Hence, granting of pre-arrest bail is vigorously opposed. Nisha, do you want to say the next one?
Cool. It is well settled that while considering an application for bail, the court has to take into consideration the nature and gravity of the accusation leveled against the accused, the larger interest of the public, reasonable apprehension of tampering with the evidence, likelihood of absconding, etc. In the instant case, prima facie, the petitioner has not only cheated the Bar Association Alappuzha, the district judiciary of Alappuzha, the general public, but also the entire judicial system. As observed above, she is not a law graduate and she never enrolled as an advocate before the Bar Council of Kerala, but clandestinely produced the enrollment number of another advocate, and the said number was exhibited by her as her roll number in all her activities as an advocate before the courts in Alappuzha district, and fraudulently used that number for various purposes as if she had enrolled as an advocate with the roll number. Doubtless that the gravity of the offenses alleged against her is grave and serious in nature. And back to Rajani.
Right. So the last thing the court said. To probe into those details, definitely custodial interrogation of this petitioner appears to be essential and inevitable. If she is granted bail, the possibility to abscond also cannot be ruled out. Basically, the court said, get wrecked. That's it. So that is from the court side. What now, Nisha?
What? Nothing. Nothing. We just have to wait because Ceci Xavier is still at large.
Yep.
She has not been found, and the police truly have no clue where to look for her. But there is something that you, dear listeners, can do about it. If you have any information about Ceci Xavier, you can contact the Alappuzha North Police Station. Their contact details should be available in our blog post. The fact that she's still at large is kind of mind-boggling to me, you know? So I was all over like Twitter last week trying to find out if anyone has any like first-hand information about her, but no one seemed to. And there's this one article that there's a legal reporting website called Live Law had written, which was about who could have possibly given her like fake certificates.
Right.
Honestly, the answer to that could be anyone. You can just like print one at home, just with a hologram of a Labrador retriever. No one will notice because the councils and the courts are so overwhelmed, right? The Bar Council is so overwhelmed on any day. Anyway, so they had posted like a snippet of the article on Twitter. And then below that, there was some comment by some random Twitter user. And God, I love random Twitter user. But basically he had written, Malayalis will always help fellow Malayalis. And I thought to myself, wow. What? Like, despite the fact that this is such a pointless theory.
It's so specific.
The thought that, you know, Ceci had this community of people that might be supporting her. I don't know. This is kind of heartwarming.
I did not think you were going to go with that. Yeah, heartwarming is a word. That's correct.
Yes.
Listeners, please disregard everything that came out of Nisha's mouth in the last 30 seconds. But do remember the bit that she says earlier about contacting the Alappuzha police station. Please give them a call if you have any information about Ceci. Only if you have information about Ceci. No prank calls. Okay? I'm warning you.
Are you giving ideas?
No, I'm warning them so we don't have liability. That's right. And that sort of brings us to the end of this episode. It was a cute little one, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was just a lot of giggles in there.
It was. So unnecessary. But yeah, guys, thank you for joining us today and every other time that you've joined us as well. Like we mentioned earlier, don't forget to review us. Leave likes, hearts, subscription boxes, ding, notification bell, whatever. Smash that, whatever they say, man. Smash that like button. The kids say it all the time. Don't forget that stuff.
Yes, and we're always happy to listen to your feedback. So if you want to reach out on like Apple Podcasts by leaving a review, or on YouTube by leaving a comment, or just leaving us a direct message on Instagram, because that works as well. And you can catch us on Instagram. I am at just.dishful.pinky.
And I am at ragi.dose. You can also find all of the sources that we have for all of our episodes on our blog. That's in the description of this episode.
And we will see you on the next episode of Misconduct.
See you guys.
Given the unprecedented times our nation is going through, where positive is now a dreaded word, Smile India gets you delightful news from across the country about people and places that continue to spread the much-needed hope and positive vibes. I am Shifa Maitra, and you can hear Smile India with me every Thursday on the IVM app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Oh, and did I tell you Smile India is available in both English and Hindi.
If you're a cricket fan, check out Edges and Sledges, India's favorite cricket podcast.
The podcast focuses on Indian cricket, the IPL, and has a ton of banter both on and off the field.
We talk about the week's biggest cricket stories with current and ex-international cricketers, coaches, or sometimes just between us.
And it's hosted by me, DJ.
Me, Varun.
And me, Ashwin.
New episodes release every week.
You can catch us on the IVM Podcast's website, app,
or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Check out the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast.